Okay, we're in Maya, and what we're going to do next is go to File, Project Window, and here you can set up your project. Click on New to do this and make sure you got the right pathway, just like I got on mine here. Once you have that, click Accept. But I've already got mine, so I'm not going to do this. Mine's already set up. And as you can see all the projects in H Drive, Docs, Maya, Projects. And there's the one I made earlier. And here are the usual folders you get. We have scenes where your Maya files will automatically go to. And in source images, this is where I put the original image of the saw that we're going to be using today. You can get that off Moodle. And always put your images in source images. Makes it much easier. So here's our scene, and we're going to go over to Create, Free Image Plane, click on that, and you see we've got this lovely box here. Now, to make sure that we put our image on, we need to go over to the Attribute Editor. There you go. And down here you see a little folder icon, click on that and it automatically goes to source images. There I can select my file and there's my sword image. Now it's really small, so I need to go into my channel layers and click away and select it. This will get you your rotation attributes. Then use rotation, we're going to just put it up nice and flat. And go over to Rotate X and make it -90. This way we can make it all good and flat, ready to go. And I'm going to change the scale to 4 to make it much bigger and easier to see. Next what I'm going to do, I'm going to line it up with the grid. So pressing the spacebar and going to top view. As you can see, I need to make the center line up with the center line there. Using the move tool, move it down a smidge, just making sure that the center's lined up there. It's probably easier to go to the tip and just make sure it looks okay there. Yep, there we go. Quite happy with that. And now we're going to make sure we don't accidentally click the layer whilst we're working on a model. So going over to your channel box and just click the last symbol layers. And there you go, you've got your image link to that. Double click and we can rename it Guide. And just change the display type from normal to reference. Then click Save. And there you go, you cannot click on it anymore. Much easier when setting up your model. So, I'm going to create a cube. You can go to Create, Polyprimitives Cube. You can also click on the cube icon in Poly Model tab. And just going to move this guy around. Get it into position. I do tend to like working with whole numbers, so yes, you may see me change things in the channel box from time to time. Now in the top view you're going to set to X-ray, so shading X-ray, then move it to the base hilt of the sword. Going to perspective view to make things a lot easier to see. I'm going to add the subdivisions to this, so back in your channel base layer, click on Inputs, Polycube 1, and here we can see the subdivisions. I'm going to change the width to 3, and subdivision height to 3, and then subdivision depth to 2. So again, nice line down the middle there. And just adjust it, the scale of it. And there you go. Making sure that the middle boxes kind of fit with the edges of the sword later on. And don't like it being too tall, so I'm just going to bring it down a bit because you don't really have a thick sword really. So now we're ready to start extruding, creating our sword blade. So over to the modeling toolkit, which will be the first icon there. And here we can see all the different ways we can edit it. Click on the face. And we want to select the middle one. Holding Shift and click on the other block, the other face next to it. And now we can hit the extrude button. And we can just pull it out on the Z depth. And using the top view as reference, I can then adjust it so. Making sure that the edges just hit the blade. Selecting the faces again, using the move tool and holding Shift, I can start extruding without having to always hit the extrude button. Constantly switching and just scaling it in a bit as I go along, so it's going to be in nice stages. And carrying this all the way to the tip of the blade. Now there is tip, you do want to scale it in, but you don't want to do it fully there. Just give it a little bit of space. And there we go, we created the main blade of the sword. Next we're going to add a little bit of detail to the sword. Looking on the top view, you can see we've got the lines on the sides in the middle, and we want to put those in before we do anything else. Adding that little bit extra detail to the sword. So just remember that we're working along the Z axis. Yours might be a bit different, but bear that in mind. In the object toolkit, we're going to set the symmetry to world Z. You could set yours to object Z or whichever one really works. Now we're going to click on Mesh Tools and go over to Edge Loop Tool. And because I put symmetry on, I can just click on one edge and it'll go all the way around, and I can make sure the other side is symmetrical. As you can see in the perspective view there. Remember, I'm always pressing the space bar to switch between the different views. And now I want to give the kind of indent look. Remember to turn symmetry off. And here I'm selecting, I'm clicking and dragging to select. This way I'm making sure I'm selecting both the top and bottom. And I decided not to go for that one because I want to create like a dent, but it goes back to normal at the tip. So here I can select the scale tool. And just scaling it from top, going down a bit, just to create that nice little indent look. You can play around with how much of an indent you want until you're satisfied with it. You can also look at the side view how far you're doing it. Unfortunately, to really see it, you need to put on X-rays, so. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that now, so that's a nice little detail there. So now next we're going to select and make the edges of the blade smaller. So clicking and dragging, creating a selection box so that I'm selecting both top and bottom vertices. Also the reason why I didn't want to make the tip too thin. And now using the side view I can scale it down. Don't want to make it too flat, give it a bit of an edge to it. And there we go, we've got the blade all sorted. So next I'm just going to round off this box at the hilt. So in the side view, selecting those 4 corners, I'm going to use a scale tool just to round it off a bit by pulling it inwards along Z and down by Y. To give it kind of a nice rounder look, but you need to keep the sides completely straight. Now go back to World Symmetry Z and selecting the face tool, and clicking on that side I'm going to try and extrude. Now using the old method you can see that it doesn't extrude right. Using Ctrl Z to put it back to the way it was. Sometimes this can happen, which is really annoying. But you can just click on the extrude tool in your modeling toolkit and that should fix the issue there. And there you go, just going to bring it in a bit there. And switching over to my move tool by pressing W, I'm going to make sure you select that face and just extrude outwards, just to create that bit of space there. Because what we're going to do here is create a bit of a bubble. And you can see it's done it on both sides equally. Focusing on that little space there, we want to create 4 edge loops. So going over to Mesh Tools, insert edge loop and click on the little box. Now here we can adjust the settings and I want the multi-edge loops and make sure it's set to 4. Going over to my mesh, I can click on that bit there and it creates 4 equally spaced edge loops. So now I'm going down to soft selection on my scale tool and make sure that's turned on. As you can see it goes white, well it goes yellow. And just adjusting the brush, you can hold down B and just scale the brush in. Now best select the edges that you want to work with. I'm going to select the faces, so click and then double click to make sure it goes all the way around. And now adjust the brush. I want the top and bottom of it to go blue, which means that they're not being affected whatsoever. And now I can scale. Adjust it till you feel, yeah, that's a good shape. That's a nice rounded edge to it. And since Symmetry Z was put on, it does it on the other side as well. So now we're going to go to Mesh Tools and we're going to use the Insert Edge Loop again, but this time turning it back to its normal setting. And I'm just going to put an edge loop down the center there. Now using the top view to help me get it into position to make it nice and straight. And since I got soft select still turned on, it automatically rounds off that edge. Now I can adjust this slightly. And selecting both top and bottom vertices. And I'm going to turn off the Now go keep soft select on. And just adjust it accordingly. And turning soft select off now because done with that, I'm not going to use it again. The shortcut to turn it off is B on your keyboards. Next thing you're going to do, I'm going to select these faces on the top of the sword. And make sure I haven't selected any other faces and hitting delete on your keyboard. And turning off world symmetry off. And what we're going to do, we're going to select the edges of this. So I'm clicking and then double clicking. And this will automatically do the edges along that surface. In mesh, we're going to select fill hole. And that should fill the area nicely. And now we're going to start extruding here. And clicking on the boxes to access the scale tool, I can scale it in nicely. Then move it in a bit. Extrude. I'm just going to hit the scale tool just to select that. And bring it in again. And one more extrude, but just a little bit. And I'm not going to bring it in. I'm just going to hit extrude one more time. I'm just going to pull it out now. Then using the top view, just like we did with the sword before, I'm just going to pull it out a bit. And scale it slightly. Move tool and holding shift, I'm going to extrude it again, just like we did with the actual blade before. And now we've got to the base, just tidying that up a bit. And now we're going to create the little detail right on the edge of the sword. Using the extrude tool again, I'm going to keep extruding, but I'm going to do this in stages. And really scale that quite a bit there. And extrude. Going to the bottom of the circle. And this time on the scale, I'm going to select the little box there, which will only select the X and Z scaling, but without touching Y. So it doesn't have to be taller, just a bit wider. And keep going. Doing this in little stages, and here I'm not going to widen it up anymore. Always holding shift and constantly extruding. And now just extruding, scaling it down till we get to the actual edge. And now I want to move the vertices about a bit, so putting on world Z again. I'm just going to move these vertices about to kind of match the circle shape in the center. Now select the face tool and clicking to drag to select all the face in the center, and I'm going to turn symmetry to Y. And this time I'm just going to select the top faces. And as you can see, with symmetry Y turned on, it didn't work. So I have to switch it over to Y. And there you go, you can see that it's selected. Sometimes you may have to switch it to Y just to make sure it all works. Now we're going to go for extrude. And selecting the scale tool, I'm going to extrude inwards. And then the move tool, I'll just pull it down a bit, just to create kind of a nice indent. And then extrude again. In a bit more, but this time going back up. Then extrude. Scaling in again. But kind of creating kind of a potential gem there that's built into the sword. And there you go, that is your gem. And I'm just going to tidy up this top here, just scale it down a bit. And there you go, you've got your sword. Just checking out the back underneath, that looks fine. And there you have it. You've created your sword model. Just giving the tip a bit of a tidy, just bring it in so it's a bit sharper. Remembering to turn off the symmetry. I can always catch you out. Whenever you make a mistake, remember to Control Z. It's really handy. And now my sword is absolutely perfect.